Hey guys, Dig here. So the purpose of today's video is to cover our Titan Canyon neutral strategy. Now, the idea behind the neutral strategy is that we want to try and take and hold and fortify one half of the map as opposed to 3 or 4 corners, right? Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to try and take and hold our corner. So assuming that this green corner, the top right corner, is our corner, we'd want to first take the tech repository as well as these hubs to flip them and start accumulating points. And then we want to start focusing on the next corner that we've identified. We identify which corner we're going to try to target in the first 5 minutes, but that's subject to change based on what our opponents are doing on the map. So typically you want to try to, the next corner that you want to try to target is the weakest corner. So, assuming that we take and hold our corner, the next corner that we target might be this one. We may take and hold our corner and then target this one. Maybe it's this one and this one. But we'd be calling that out live in voice chat, which corner we're going to try and occupy. Now, the first thing that we want to try to do is take this repository and we want to try to use our base fill strat on it. And then the next thing that we'd want to do is do the same thing in our next corner, right? If it's this red corner here, do the same thing. Use the base fill strat on the tech repository. And then what we can do is we can start to use the no base fill strat on the tech trial sites, right? Now, based on the depth of our team and how many people showed up, let's say if we're able to, this corner, our tech repository, we should always try to keep filled and use the fill strat on it. But let's say if the next corner that we've taken, we try to use the fill strat on it, it works, we may end up having to back out of that corner once the Nexus hubs and the teleport gateways open. That really depends on how many players have shown up and what's the depth of our team at that time, right? But ideally, the most important buildings are our own repository and then either a Nexus hub or a teleport gateway, based on our ability to do that. But first and most important is our own repository. After that, Nexus hub or teleport gateway, and then after that, another opponent's corner. Now, the only reason we'd fill our repository as well as an opponent's repository is because the repositories open up first before the Nexus hubs and the teleport gateways. So that's why I say it is possible that we back out of our opponent's corner for fill strat and start fill stratting a Nexus hub instead. Now, while we're doing this, while we're taking and holding this corner as well as a Nexus hub, we're also going to have runners who are trying to run around and flip other tech repositories, tech trial sites as needed, right? If we're able to successfully hold our repository and say a Nexus hub and one other repository, that's when those runners would start focusing on, trying to flip other things. But we really need to be able to hold our corner as well as one other repository, most importantly, before we start running around on the map trying to take and flip other things. Because what we want to do is we want to try to concentrate and focus our efforts as much as is possible, and focus our strength in one area as much as possible. The only time that we should really kind of try to deviate away from that is when we're just overpowered, right? When we're not strong enough to do that, in which case, we may not be so weak that we need to move to a defensive strat, but we may not have enough depth and strength to be able to effectively hold one repository and dominate it. That's the point where, we start running around the map and trying to poke and prod and see which other corner we can take. But again, high level overview. First, take and hold our repository. Make sure that we're trying to take and hold and maintain these tech trial sites. Holding just our corner will gain us 250 points a minute. So that's a solid base to work on. After we've taken and held our corner, then we want to start focusing on another corner. Again, that'll be called out in VC. And then the next thing that we want to do, Nexus hubs, teleport gateways, and of course, don't forget about the hover stations. Now, in any strat, anybody who can should be sending marches to crystal mines. We should be collecting gems for bounty points as much as possible. These are things that alone by themselves, they don't look like a lot of points, but they do add up. And they especially add up when we're doing them together as a team, right? So don't forget about those crystal mines and those gems. We talked about that in the previous video. Don't forget about those because they are very, very important. So yeah, take and hold one half of the map, after which focus on Nexus hubs and teleport gateways. The focus of whether it's a Nexus hub or a teleport gateway or two Nexus hubs, that's going to be called out by our shot callers in the VC. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.